Assalamu alaikum. Continuing with the same topic, that is intersection design, and we will start with the concept of conflict points. So I think I have explained it earlier as well. Conflict points are the points where two vehicles from different directions can cross each other or can meet at the same time. Okay, can. I'm saying can because obviously you will have signals and roundabouts and so on and so forth. Okay, so the possibility of their actual meeting is maybe 0. Okay, so but you have to identify all the conflict points, and the design starts after that. First of all, find out what are the possible conflict points, and then you see how we can remove them. Okay, this is basically the point of design, right? Removing the conflict points. So first of all, you need to identify the conflict points. Okay, identifying the conflict points is very easy. Make a sketch of the intersection. This is a 4-leg intersection. You may have a 3-leg intersection as well, and then you draw all the possible movements from your intersection. Okay, so from each side, how many movements are possible? Draw all of them. When you draw all of them, these conflict points are already in place. You see what they have done? They have made arrows for all the movements which are possible from each side. You see, left arrow, straight arrow, right arrow. So these arrows are there, and wherever these arrows are intersecting, these are the conflict points. Okay, and then you work on how we can eliminate them. Now you can see, 3 conflicts point at a point. These 3 conflict points in a limited space, which is what we don't want, right? So you have to design something at this location so that these 3 vehicles do not intersect, because we said one path should cross you at one point, right? So you have to then make the design changes accordingly. Okay, so first of all, identify the conflict points, and then see which of them you can eliminate completely and which of them needs to be shifted and so on. Conflict points can be of 3 types: merging, diverging, and crossing. We have discussed merging, right? I told you about the right turning movements. See, so the white circles are merging. Okay, so whenever you're right turning, merging. Okay, so you're coming from a different direction and merging into one road. Okay, so that is a vehicle coming from a different direction and it's merging into your road. That is merging. Okay, diverging, the opposite of merging. The opposite of merging. A vehicle from your direction is going in a different direction now. A vehicle from your lane is going in a different direction now. So you see the crosses are diverging. The crosses in this sketch are diverging. So you see, so these guys are coming here, and then one of them decided to go left and the other one is going straight. So this is diverging. Okay, a driver from this lane decided to go left and the other one is still going straight. So this is diverging. This driver is diverging. Okay, and so on. So most of the left turns are diverging, even maybe U-turns as well. Anyways, then we have crossing conflict points. Crossing conflict points are when 2 vehicles come from different directions and they are going in different directions as well, but they are meeting at a point. They are meeting at a point. For example, you see the black circles. Okay, so you see this guy is making a left turn from here. Okay, this guy is making a left turn, and then this guy is going straight. So this guy is going towards the left, and this guy is coming towards coming downwards, right? So they are coming from different directions, going in different directions, but there is a point where they are crossing each other, where they can meet with each other. Okay, so this becomes a crossing conflict point. Merging is somebody coming from other direction merging into your direction. Diverging is somebody from your direction diverging to somebody some other direction. And crossing is 2 people who are coming from different directions, going into different directions, but they are meeting at a point. Okay, so as I said, in the design process, first of all, you identify the conflict points, and then you see how we can move them or shift them or eliminate them. Okay, so maybe some of them will be eliminated by islands, some of them may require signal, a roundabout, okay, and so on and so forth. Now let us look at a case study. So this is the intersection between Sheikh Daij and Sheikh Fateh Avenue, and it's an old picture. Okay, it's an old picture. So you can see the data which I have is from 2006 to 2008. So this is just for the sake of explanation. Okay, it has nothing to do with the time period. I just wanted to show you how to apply the concepts which you have studied in this chapter. So on this intersection, there have been how many? 20 accidents in 3 years, which is considered as a lot by the General Directorate of Traffic in Bahrain. Okay, anything which is more than 6 accidents per year is considered as dangerous. It's a T intersection, and it was established in 1979. This intersection, out of these 20 accidents, uh, like one of them was fatal. Okay, fatal meaning it has a death. Fatal meaning it has a death. So even when death, it's a human life, so it's very important. It's very uh, precious. So even one death in 3 years is considered as serious. Okay, but it has serious injury accidents as well, slight injury accidents as well. Okay, so it involved 42 drivers, which is a lot. 22 accidents having between different vehicles, so which involve 42 drivers. Okay, 12 passengers and 4 pedestrians. One of them, the death was for the pedestrian. Okay, so for this intersection, they found what are the reasons for these accidents. So most of them were because of drunk and drugged, then crossing red light, misjudging clearance, changing the lanes carelessly, and then there were 5 for which the causes were unknown. The causes were unknown. Okay, so accident happens, and then different people are saying different things. So the officer may not be able to identify what was the exact reason, so they put in others. Information about the intersection. It is in a well-known area. I think everybody knows about Sheikh Fateh Highway. It's a very important highway. It goes through a very populous area. Okay, one side it has Jufair, the other side is diplomatic area and so on. So on one side you have hotels and centers of entertainment. I have seen some, areas where people play football and cricket as well, and the other side is the residential area. Okay, so basically there's a lot of pedestrian crossing as well. Okay, so it's a busy area, populous area with vehicles as well as pedestrians. Now, out of these reasons, if you are trying to eliminate them, then drunk and drugged is not part of our scope right now, right? What we can do in the class for drunk and drug driver? Huh? We can just hope that no one of us is involved in there. Huh? So alhamdulillah, I don't think that any of us is involved in there. So if you are involved in this, please leave it. Okay, so I have done my duty. We will look at the other things which we'll try to solve with the intersection design. Okay, we will look at the other reasons and we will try to solve them with the by suggesting something in the design of the intersection. First of all, crossing red light. Okay, so keep in mind we have these 3 reasons to take care of: crossing red light, misjudging clearance, and changing lanes carelessly. Okay, crossing red light. Why would a driver cross red light? Okay, we are talking about genuine drivers who are not trying to cross the red light. What could have happened to these drivers to make them cross the red light? The obvious answer is maybe they could not see the signal. Maybe they could not see the signal. So obviously they were very close to the signal when they saw the signal was turning red, and then they couldn't do anything, so they have to pass. Okay, and so there can be a problem of sight distance here. Now, what can create a problem of sight distance? Now you see on all sides the road is very wide roads, 3-4 lanes on each side. So on these types of roads, the speed is usually high. Okay, or the driver tend to come at high speeds. So for high speed, now you look at the signal posts. See, on all 3 sides, the signal posts are very, like, they are at normal height. At normal height, like you would find a signal post in a local street or something. Okay, for high speed roads, the post must be higher so the driver can see the post from more distance. So he can act according to his speed because he needs more time. Okay, so violating the red light can be because of the sight distance, and we could increase the sight distance by elevating the post of the signal so we can make them higher. Okay, there are other reasons as well, but we cannot discuss them right now because we didn't study them here. Okay, they are related to signal design. Okay, but what we can see is we have been saying sight distance for the control devices must be sufficient. So this is one of the reasons here, or could be one of the reasons. Second thing is for the misjudging clearance between you and the signal, and clearance between you and the other cars. You and the signal meaning you are coming close to a signal and you didn't realize that you should slow down or something, and clearance between the other cars. So clearance between you and the signal could be related to your sight distance. So the first point which we have said, make the signals higher, should cover this one as well. Okay. It will provide you more sight distance, so you will see the signal from more distance and you will have a better chance at judgment. Clearance between you and the other car. Okay. Now what does it mean? So you were coming towards signal and you thought you have enough distance between you and the other car, but the other car in front of you stopped suddenly. Okay, it stopped suddenly. According to you, you did not see any reason why that car should stop, but that car stopped, and because of that, you went on and bumped that car from the rear end. Okay, so this is again a case of misjudging clearance. They would say you misjudged the clearance between you and the other car. Okay, but why would a person be that close to the other car? Maybe because the other car stopped suddenly. Otherwise, you will have enough distance, right? You will try to keep enough distance. You will try to save yourself and the other car. So why would a car stop suddenly? First reason, again, because it looked at the signal and it realized that it was red. So the driver thought, okay, now I have to stop. Okay, so if the driver had more sight distance, he would slow down in advance and the driver behind him will be prepared as well. Okay, another reason, I actually gave 3 examples for the other reason. You see this guy here, then you see this guy here, then you see this other guy here. What are these guys? These are pedestrians. Now, if they are pedestrians on all sides, and I always said that we have residential area and then the commercial area on the other side, so pedestrian crossing is there. So if pedestrian crossing is there, then what is missing on all sides? See, there's something which is missing on all the sides, which is what? Which is pedestrian crosswalk. You don't see any pedestrian crosswalk on all sides shown here. Okay, and if they had given a pedestrian crosswalk, maybe you say, okay, pedestrian crosswalk was there, but now it needs to be repainted. But you see, there is no cut in the median as well. We said earlier a number of times in chapter 15 as well as chapter 3 as well as in this chapter as well, that wherever you have to provide a pedestrian crosswalk, you have to provide a cut for the pedestrian to facilitate them as well. So somebody even on a bicycle or wheelchair can cross from there. So you can see there's no cut in the median of the islands on any side. Okay, so this is part of channelization. The channelization for the pedestrian is missing. Pedestrians do not know, or they are not indicated from where they should cross. And you can see what is happening here. You see on this side and on this side, from where the pedestrian is trying to cross. He is trying to cross behind the stop line. Even if the signal is red and you are the guy who's coming, you are not expecting a pedestrian to come in front of you in the middle of the queue. Okay, you signal is red, even if there is no crosswalk and you are crossing in front of the stop line, it is safe. Okay, but crossing from here is not even safe when the signal is red. Okay, because you are coming in the middle of the queue. Okay, so you may be disturbing the third or the fourth car in the queue. So basically, middle of the queue means they are crossing from anywhere. Okay, they are not crossing from after the stop line, which they should do. But why they are not crossing after the stop line? Because there is no indication for them to cross from there. Okay, so pedestrian crosswalk is missing, and there is no cut for the pedestrian as well to indicate, okay, if you cross from here, it will be easier for you. So if it is same for them from anywhere, so they are crossing from anywhere, and they are causing the cars to stop suddenly. They come on the middle of the road, and the cars have to stop for them. Okay, so if you have space for them, they will only cross from there, and the cars would know that this is where we have to stop and slow down, and they will be expecting the other car to do that. Okay. One more thing, again, we have not studied it, but just to mention that actually we have studied it about the pedestrian crossing time, right? We have studied about the pedestrian crossing time. So the signal must give enough time for the pedestrians to cross. The signal must not become green when the pedestrian is here. So with the crosswalk and with the median cut, you also need to check the signal timing if it is enough for the pedestrian to cross or not. Is the signal remaining red for enough time for the pedestrian to cross or not? This is what we have to check. Okay, so these are 3 things regarding pedestrians which may be causing the cars to stop suddenly. I mean, these are the 3 points regarding the pedestrians, okay, to facilitate their crossing. And if you facilitate pedestrian crossing, then at least you are sure the cars will not be stopping suddenly because a pedestrian is in front of them. Okay, and I already showed you the death. One death in the accident was of a pedestrian. Okay, so you have to solve that problem. Okay, then the third point was changing the lanes carelessly. Changing the lanes carelessly. Now it's a very rude word. Obviously, some traffic officer filled it up. Okay, and they are already very angry at us. So they are saying, okay, changing the lane carelessly. Why would a guy change the lane carelessly? First of all, changing the lane near the intersection is considered dangerous and careless. Changing the lane near the intersection is considered dangerous and careless. Why would you change your lane near the intersection? The obvious answer is because you didn't know in which lane you should be. You didn't know in which lane you should be. Okay, now if you come on this side, you see there are some arrow markings here. Okay, now these arrows are for straight, right? There should be an arrow here for left turning as well. This lane is supposed to be for left turning. You see, this guy is half turned left. So where is the arrow for that? There should be an arrow for that. Okay. Similarly on these sides, now I didn't find the picture, the full segment. So we are not sure, but we need to check. Even for the right turning lane, although there's an island, it's an island for right turning here, it's an island for right turning here. But even before the island approaches, you have to put an arrow for the drivers that this lane is for right turning. So they do not realize near the island that they have to change the lane because this is the right turning lane. Okay. So you have to check on all the sides that turning lanes are having pavement markings in the form of arrows to show them from where they have to cross, from where they have to change the lane. And these arrows should come well before the intersection. Okay, well before the intersection, like to give them enough time to change the lane comfortably. Okay, if you are giving the arrow here, okay, this is already very close to the stop line. Okay, they are already in the queue. Okay, so the arrows, the position of the arrow is sufficient, but the one for the left hand is missing. So this could be one of the reasons that they do not have enough pavement markings to show the assignment of the lane. Okay, for which movement it is, and these arrows should be well behind the intersection. Okay, and then they can be a board as well, that if you take the right turn, you will be in this area. You take the left turn, you will go towards this area. Okay, but maybe the board was there. We don't know again. Okay, but these things should be checked. These things can cause the driver to change the lane near the intersection. Changing the lane can also mean one more thing, which is on the intersection itself. On the intersection itself. Now you see, this is a very big intersection. 3 lanes here, 4 lanes here, and 7 lanes here. See, this is a very big intersection. Okay, so on big intersections, we have talked about the area of wandering in the previous lecture. So there is a lot of area to wander for the vehicles. There is a lot of empty area. So let's say this driver, he may decide, okay, I am taking a very wide turn. Why not I get into this lane? Okay, why not I take a shorter cut? Okay, so he may try to come here, and he is doing it in the middle of the intersection because he realized he's taking a very wide turn. Okay, so there is he can do this because there is a lot of empty area for him. Okay, he may do it out of confusion as well. He may do it out of confusion as well. That okay, should I be in this lane? Okay, this driver is also coming with me. This driver is also taking a left turn. I am the only one who is here. Maybe I'm in the wrong lane. Maybe I'm in the wrong place. I should try to get back into them. Okay, so he may be doing out of confusion. He may be doing it to save his time or whatever. Okay, but there is a lot of area for wandering. Okay, for left turns especially. Okay, so these drivers are taking left turn. These drivers are taking left turn. There are a lot of empty area, and this empty area can cause confusion, and it may encourage the driver to go in zigzag movement from one end to the other. Okay, so you can maybe put channelization here, maybe put a small traffic island here, okay, to show the vehicles on which side they should be, or you may have seen some markings. Okay, you can even mark, you can continue this lane like this towards the other side. Okay, so again, it's a form of channelization. You are guiding the driver from one end of the left turn to the other end. Same thing can be done here as well. So you have to guide them. that you have to follow this line. Okay, so you can make these lines, or you can put a island in the middle of the intersection to make sure they do not cross in the middle of the intersection. Okay, so these are some points which we are hoping that will solve the problem of the accidents, and they may have done now. Maybe if you go to the said intersection, you may see all of some of these things are already done. I think I've covered everything. Wander area, link cuts, so on. Okay. Now let us discuss the side distance criteria for intersections. We have talked about side distance again and again in this chapter. And side distance, so we said, okay, we need side distance for the control device, okay, which is in the intersection. So that control device is in front of you. So if something is in front of you, then we know how to calculate the side distance, right? Something is in front of you, you know how to calculate the side distance. We have the equation, right? That equation is for a straight road, okay? And then you have also the equation how to make sure you have enough side distance on the curvature as well. Okay, so it's not a problem. If you have a signal in front of you, even after a curve, you know how to calculate side distance. Now we will discuss side distance with the perspective of looking at the driver coming from the other side. From where I can detect the driver who's coming from the other side. Now you see the driver, first of all, this one is a major road, this one is a minor road. Major, minor. So this one has high speed, this one has low speed, this one has more volume, this one has low volume. Okay. So driver at the major road is at point A, and he can, from point A, he can see the driver on minor road, which is on point C. Let us call the major road as road A, and let us call the minor road as road B. So driver on road A can see the driver on road B from this distance. So this point from where you can see the other driver has a distance from the intersection which is referred to as DA. So what is DA? DA is the distance from the intersection to the position of the driver from where he can see the driver coming from the other direction. Okay. Similarly, we have DB, which is the distance from the intersection to the position of the driver from where he can see the driver coming from the major road. Okay, so we have DA and DB, which are the distances from the intersection to the position of the driver at which they can see the driver coming from the other direction. Okay, now wherever we are talking about the distance which is not straight, okay, distance across a curve, we have already discussed in chapter 15 that distance will depend upon the obstruction on the side of the road. So driver on point A can see the driver on point C because obstruction is here. Okay, what if I move the obstruction closer? If I move the obstruction here, then now the driver cannot see it from here, right? So his line of sight is blocked. Line of sight is blocked because of the obstruction on the side of the road. Okay, so the side distance from where you can see the other driver depends upon the distance of the obstruction from the road. Okay, so the distance of the obstruction from the major road is termed as small a, and the distance of the obstruction from the minor road is termed as small b. Okay, so a is the distance of the obstruction from major road, and b is the distance from the obstruction to the minor. Okay, now you see we have a triangle here, A, B, C. A, B, C. It's a triangle. And then we have a smaller triangle, which is A, D, E. A, D, E. What is A, B, C? A is the position of the driver on the major road. B is the intersection point of the two drivers, and C is the position of the driver of the minor road. What is A, D, E? A is the position of the driver on the major road. D is the position. D is the straight the point. D is the point which is in line with the obstruction. D is the point in line with the obstruction on the major road. Okay, and E is the edge of the obstruction. E is the edge of the obstruction. Okay, so we have these two triangles, and these are similar triangles. These are similar triangles. Now for triangle ABC, vertical is DB and horizontal is DA. Okay, so DB upon DA, tangent theta for triangle ABC. For triangle ADE, vertical is A, distance from the obstruction to the road, major road, and horizontal is DA minus B. How? The total from A to B is DA, and from B, which is a minor road, to the edge of the obstruction is small b. So the remaining will be DA minus B. Okay, DA minus B. So for this small triangle, the tangent theta is A upon DA minus B. And since they are similar triangles, so these two ratios must be equal. So you see, you have to satisfy this ratio for any intersection. And designing the intersection, you have to satisfy the ratio of the side distances. Okay. So A and B are the distances for the obstruction from the roads. How do we get D and dB? For D and dB, we have this table. Again, unfortunately, as per hour in feet. Okay. So according to this design speed, find out DA or dB. If you put the speed of major road, you will get DA. If you put the speed of minor road, you will get dB. Okay, so they are not separate table. They are no like separate tables. This is the same table, but it will be applied to whichever road you are putting the speed for. Okay. Now, after you get the distance from the first table, then you have to multiply with the adjustment factor from the second table. The distance from the first table must be multiplied with the adjustment factor on the second table to find out the final value. The final value will be value from the first table multiplied by the adjustment factor. Okay, so for example, you find out the value 325 feet is for 60 miles per hour. You come here 60 miles per hour. Let's say your gradient is 6%, minus 6%. So for minus 6%, the adjustment factor is 1.2. 1.2. So 325 into 1.2 will give you the final value of the distance for DA or dB, whatever you are trying to find out. Okay. So this is how you get the final value. Okay. And if you have the final value and you want to put it back in table 1, then you divide. Okay, so somebody already gave me the value of DA, and that value is, let's say, 300, and I want to put it back in the first table to find out the speed. Then I will divide by 1.2. I will divide by 1.2. Okay, so take the value from table 1, then you multiply to get the final. If you have the final, then divide by adjustment factor to put it into table 1. Okay, I will show you in the next example. Okay, so there are two tall buildings located 45 feet from the center line of a local road. So local road is a minor road. Local road is a minor road. So the obstruction, which is a building, has a distance of 45 feet from the minor road. So that is distance B. Distance B is given. And the same building has 65 feet from the intersecting road. So if this one is a minor road, then this one is a major road. Okay, so the 65 feet becomes A. So A and B are given. Maximum limit on the intersecting road, that is the major road. The maximum speed limit is 35 miles per hour. Okay, so the speed for the major road is given, and we want to find out the speed on the minor road so that we have enough side distance to avoid any collision, and the approach gradients are 2%. Both roads have a gradient of 2%. Okay, both roads have a gradient of 2%. So A and B are given, and the speed is given. Now I know according to the speed I can find out the value of DA. Why DA? Because this is for the road A, for the major road. So you come to this table for 35 miles per hour. The value of DA is 165 feet. So I know DA now, 165 feet. Then I should apply the adjustment factor. For adjustment factor, speed of 35 miles per hour. So this column, and the gradient 2%, which is in this range. Okay, so the adjustment factor is 1. So 165 multiplied by 1 will be 165. So DA is 165. DA is 165. Now A is given 65, B is given 45, and DA is 165. So how much will be dB? How much will be dB? We have to find out dB here. Okay. Location of the obstruction. It is on the side of the road. What do you mean where it should be? It can be anywhere. It can be anywhere. You have to then find out the side distance according to that. This is what I'm saying. The obstruction can be anywhere at any distance. According to that distance, you will find out your side distance. This is what I'm saying. Okay, so you are trying to find out dB here. So dB upon dA, which is 165, equals A, which is 65, divided by dA minus B. So 165 minus 45. Give me the value of dB. 89.4 feet. Okay, 89.4 feet. Now you come to this table. Now, as I said, I want to find out the speed using the distance. So I have to use this table. Okay, so I should divide by the adjustment factor, then put it in the table. So 89.4 feet. Okay, the speed, so I have a gradient of 2%. So for 2% gradient, the adjustment factor is 1. The adjustment factor is 1. So 89.4 divided by 1 will remain 89.4, right? So adjustment factor has no effect. Then you come here. 89.4 is somewhere here. Now if you want to interpolate, you can. If you want to interpolate to find out the exact value of speed, you can interpolate. But 89.4 and 90, it's almost the same. Even if you interpolate, you will get a value 19.99 miles per hour. Okay, so it doesn't make sense to interpolate here. Okay, so I will just assume that it is almost 90. So the speed on the minor road should be 20 miles per hour. The speed on the minor road should be 20 miles per hour. Okay, this is what I would assume. Okay. As I said, if you want more exact answer, you can interpolate. Then this is another question. A developer is requesting the permission to build a large store near a road, near the intersection of a road. And this intersection is between 4-lane major road and 2-lane minor road. Okay, so it's a 4-lane major road and 2-lane minor road intersecting each other, and somebody wants to build a store near the intersection. The speed limit on the roads are given: 35 for the minor road, 50 for the major road. So we know the speed limits. Building will be 65 feet from the minor road. 65 feet from the minor road. So B is given. B is given. We have to find out the location of the building from the center line of the major road. Center line of the major road, to make sure we have enough side distance and to stop and so on. And gradient is not given. Gradient is not given, so I will assume what? I will assume level. Gradient is not given, so I will assume it to be level. Okay, 0%. Okay, so first of all, I will find out dA and dB using the speed limits. Okay, 35 dB is 165 feet, 50 dA is 245 feet. The speed of minor road 135, so dB is 165. Speed of major road 50, so dB is 245. Okay, and the distance for the minor road is given from the building is 65 feet. So I know B. Okay, so now I know dA, dB, and B. I have to find out A. I have to find out A, which is the one they want to calculate. Okay, so dB is 165, dA is 245. Trying to find out A, and B is 60. Yeah, you can interpolate. You can interpolate if the value is not in the table. You can interpolate. Okay, so dB is 165, is 245. I'm trying to find out. And B is 65. Correct equation, right? dB upon dA, fine. A upon this. Give me the value of A. Yeah, 121.2 feet. So the building should be 121.22 feet away from the road to have the existing side distance. If the building is closer than that, then the side distance will be changed. So that means the speed will not be maintained. The road will become unsafe at the speeds which are on the roads right now. The roads will become unsafe because they will not have enough distance at the given speeds. Okay, so then you need to change the speed maybe. Okay, but 121.22 feet is enough to maintain the current speed and keep the road safe for the existing side distance. Okay, so I'll finish here because we will not start a new topic right now, and I want to give you some practice examples for in the tutorial on Sunday. Okay, so I'm going for the attendance right now. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Okay, Ala Ahmad, Mahmoud Isa, Muhammad Al-Ajab, Zahra Ali Ahmad. Ala Ahmad, Mahmoud Isa, Muhammad Al-Ajab, Zahra Ali Ahmad. Zahra and Mahmoud and Muhammad Al-Ajab.
Yes, doctor.
Ala?
Yeah, yes, doctor.
Yeah, okay. Balkis Muhammad, Mahdi Abdullah, Hala Munir, Face. Balkis Muhammad, Mahdi Abdullah, Hala Munir. Okay, Huda is here. Omar Muhammad, Manal Yasin, Muzun Faisal, Sarah. No, Sarah was here. Omar Muhammad, Manal Yasin, Muzun Faisal.
Present.
Omar and Muzun. Noor Tawfiq, Muhammad Jafar. Noor Tawfiq and Muhammad Jafar. Noor is here, okay. Jafar is here. Okay, done. People from section 1. Anybody from section 1?
Dr. Faisal from section 1.
Okay. Sozan and Faisal, Bayan Yusuf. Okay. Anybody else? Huda, A is the distance from the building or the obstruction to the major road. A is the distance from the building to the major road. Okay. Okay, so we are done. See you on Sunday. Have a nice weekend. Assalamu alaikum.